Welcome to GearBoks, everybody. A fresh new podcast with some perhaps familiar old voices. We're an automotive podcast looking to bring you some of the latest news and thoughts of a wide range of people and hopefully guests in the future. Welcome to episode 1. My name is Nadav. You might recognize some of our voices and faces from an old podcast. It's a few months since we've recorded, so we're just getting together independently now. Welcome 3 people joining me this evening. I have with me Mike Salomon. Say hello, Mike.
Hello, Mike. So guys, it's been a while since we sat down and talked. Are we allowed to swear on this one? I know
no, you're not at the moment.
Allowed to swear, okay. So we were talking, we talked a little bit of rubbish and sometimes we make a bit of sense, but I've missed doing this with you guys. I suppose the lockdown is forcing us to find a little bit of a way of doing this, and I think Zoom, we're fortunate to have it. So yeah, guys, just to introduce myself, I'm mates with the 3 gents that are on this broadcast with me, and I'm a car collector. Got some intriguing stuff, and I think Doc, I'd like to hear your. I'd like to give a little bit of background on your collection, but I think later in the show we're going to talk a little bit about what the change.
We are. I'm going to discuss shortly what we're going to cover today. I want to introduce our second member of the team. His name is Mark Paluta. Mark, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Doc. Yeah,
Thank you. Such a short and sweet introduction.
Come on, tell us what
so I'm Mark.
turn-ons and turn-offs.
I'm Mark. I sell cabbage for a living, and this is me on a podcast. It's been nearly a year. I'm so excited. Excited to be talking with you boys again, shooting the breeze, getting on each other's nerves, getting you revved up. That's what this is all about. And so excited for our new member. Whoop, whoop.
Right. So our third guest this evening, or it's going to hopefully be a permanent member of the team, is Monsieur Jacques Hatting, who joins us today from Lani Santon area. Jacques, thank you for being part of the team. I think you should have been part of it from the beginning. What say you?
Thanks, Nadav, Mark and Mike. It's nice to join you guys, and I look forward to having some fun. Yeah.
Can I make a note at the outset here? So, I mean, our format is relative.
Wouldn't be a podcast if you didn't make a note, Mark.
No, I'm just so we generally we'll try and argue as much as possible, but we've got some good news. Is that we actually don't have a Toyota loving fanatic on this.
Hallelujah,
Mike.
So whilst we still have an Audi lover, we don't have a Toyota lover.
It's not entirely true, Mike.
As a resident Afrikaans ook, I need to support Toyota. So let's not get carried away.
We don't
mind. I love what a stereotype you are, Jacques.
We don't mind being supportive of it. We just mind if you be unreasonable about it.
Okay.
So guys, we're going to lay down some ground rules for the evening. We're going to try and keep it shortish, about 30 minutes in total after this introduction. We have today to cover maybe 3 or so segments for our listeners' pleasure. Let's see how we go. Let's see how much ground we can cover and what it sounds like. So I think without further ado, Mike, did you want to start us off with some news, perhaps?
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is our old format where we used to talk about what was going on, and the world's really stopped in the last while. So I think we'll talk about a few cars that have been launched, but while we were sitting in lockdown, I mean, probably the biggest news is that Tesla became the biggest car manufacturer in the world. And
Did it?
yeah, it's got
I didn't know that.
of any.
Did not know that.
No, do not say that. Come on, guys. We a bit of credibility on this.
Became the biggest car manufacturer in the
I think-
world.
I'm going to intercede for a minute, Mike, and I need to
Biggest
identify
electric car
Jacques.
manufacturer.
It's the most.
Jacques are a reasonable man. I think our listeners should know that Jacques is the reasonable man. So if we need to check if something is correct, we're going to ask Jacques. Because
So
Mark tends to blow things up a little bit.
It's not. It's
Mark doesn't know anything about anything. So Jacques going to be the reasonable man.
It's worth more than Toyota now.
Yeah, I saw a headline.
Value.
In value. So in terms of market cap, it's definitely, I don't think it produces the most cars though.
No, it doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's the most valuable car company in the world now.
No, that's for sure. I also read that.
That's not what you said.
It is. It's the biggest
Yeah,
car.
Mark.
Oh, it's the
Be
most
specific. There are people like me that are learning on this thing.
Yeah, well, I'm struggling to open my beer.
Okay, so let's talk about a car that's just been launched.
Mhm.
That I think's flippin' cool. The new Ford Bronco.
Woo.
How cool is that thing?
And
It is.
interesting is that actually there's been quite a resurgence in America, and they obviously they've gone on that. The old Broncos, the old Blazers, particularly the ones from the 70s, quite sought after, and the values have gone up. So you can see they've taken a step back, and it is properly cool.
It is cool. I think
it's incredible.
But I think it's a trend that started with the muscle cars. So the Mustangs and the Chargers and all those kind of things. And now it's actually spilling over into more SUVs and leisure vehicles. But the new Bronco is really
It started with, we can go back to Jacques' favorite car of all time, the FJ Cruiser. Kind of started there. And then the latest one before the Bronco was the new Defender, which has been a long time coming. And now
which
this new
I
Bronco.
have to say,
the new Bronco actually looks like a more pure to its roots kind of.
yeah.
To be honest, they were released within a couple of weeks of one another, and it seems like it's sort of stolen the thunder of the new Defender. Because it's
Absolutely.
There wasn't much thunder to steal though. I mean, I was pretty disappointed by the 110. I hope the 90 Defender looks a little better.
Yeah, but just be careful here. Just remember, you've got a Defender owner on this chat.
We don't own it quite yet, although the papers arrived today, and so that will soon change.
It's yours. Is it
but look, I also personally didn't understand the Defender, the new one. Didn't quite understand the styling direction, and I'm not sure that I understood how it related to the old car. The more I read about it and the more sort of video footage that I read about the 110, I'm sort of starting to understand it as a model in its own right. If you remove the Defender bit out and you just look at it as a vehicle to use every day, off-road, on-road, stuff things in without worrying about scratching beautiful leather and wood finishes and things like that, it actually starts to make a lot of sense. Sounds like it's a very usable thing. Its biggest problem is the fact that they decided to call it a Defender. If they didn't, I think it would have been much easier to have the public accept it. But I think the Defender and the Bronco just represent the industry looking at recreating the very successful retro pastiche Fiat 500 new Mini kind of idea in the SUV range. Ford hasn't had a competitor to Jeep in the US market, pretty much. If I stand to be corrected, but I don't think they ever had one. So this is now a Jeep competitor from Ford. which is a big market segment that they didn't cover. So I'm not sure I understand the retro idea of the Bronco, and the
Well,
range,
listen, it's got some.
and the myriad options, and it's mind blowing. But
So you get
I'm sure
if I'm not mistaken, you get a regular Bronco, which comes in 2 and 4 door, and then you get one called the Bronco Sport, which is a smaller Bronco.
Correct.
The roof
And
comes off.
all of these cars have removable doors and
removable roof. Yeah,
that's too cool. But
really cool.
From Ford is that you mentioned that they don't have a proper off-roader like that, and I think they had like the Everest and whatever, but they actually launched also during the lockdown or just before it, what I think is just it's ugly as anything, and it just doesn't work, and that's the Mustang Mach-E. That
electric SUV.
I mean, it's
It would have been fine if they didn't call it a Mustang.
It's almost shameless the way that they've done it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it looks horrendous, and it's taking the Mustang and making it into something it's just really not.
So they're just using that name. They're hoping to attract sales because now it's a Mustang SUV. But I mean, it's got really nothing to do with the Mustang.
So I heard on another American podcast that that was actually a bit of a mistake on their side, because they had some really cool names for electric vehicles. So they had Fusion, for example, that was available. And that name would make a lot more sense for electric vehicle than a Mach-E.
Yeah.
So maybe they missed it.
Why didn't they go ahead with it? No, they were silly, absolutely silly.
And I must say, for me, it particularly hurts as an ex-owner of a Mach 1.
Oh, yeah, for the whole 5 minutes.
I forgot about that.
We're
running out of time.
I don't think it ever drove.
It did drive, and the reason I owned it for a month is because it took a month to sell.
We're running out of time for our news segment, gentlemen. So I'd like to end off with perhaps just an update on the latest in the supercar world. No, let me change it to hypercar world. There's a lot of
Where's the crossover? Like, what's a hypercar now?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But we need to update everyone on the Valkyrie, which is still coming. Aston Martin ran into some pretty serious financial trouble over the sort of first half of this year, but it looks like Valkyrie is still on point. They've got late prototypes testing on track, and
this is a V12,
on the road.
naturally aspirated V12.
Naturally aspirated V12 designed by Adrian Newey, don't forget.
Yep.
And that looks like it's on point for deliveries at the end of this year, so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Remember, 12,000 RPM, if I'm not mistaken, V12 Cosworth in there.
Amazing.
Which then brings, obviously, the next obvious thing to discuss is the T50, the Gordon Murray Automotive T50, which is now we're starting to get some proper detail as well. Also with the Cosworth V12, which is unrelated to the Aston Martin Cosworth V12, with a manual gearbox and ground effect. And these things are getting closer and closer and closer. So I think the first couple of months of 2021 are looking pretty exciting.
This is a proper McLaren F1 replacement.
No, but this
McLaren
is
F1 replacement by its design.
Nadav, it's not just a ground effect. It's actually a fan car. It's got
it's a fan car.
That's right.
Rabbit. But are these next year?
Beg your pardon?
Car class.
We lost you there, Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
Are these cars going racing next year?
Well, it seems as if the rules around the Le Mans hypercar class might allow it, and hopefully the designers are keeping racing in mind. It will be fantastic to see these things racing wheel to wheel around Le Mans. I don't know if that's a reality, but it could well be when the world comes back to normal in 2021. We'll see that. So
we're going to Le Mans 2021.
2021, guys.
Yes, we are.
We'll have to leave it at that for our first segment, gentlemen. But we'll be back shortly with some more information. Welcome back to the brand new GearBoks podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. Mike,
Thanks for
Jacques,
getting off your
and Mark.
couch.
Thank you.
Sitting
Thank
up.
you. Well, I'm plugged into the wall, so unfortunately I can't move very far. This is the price of modern technology. This is the price of having to speak to you guys, with a flat laptop. So thanks everyone for joining us once again. You're listening to our first comeback podcast after a few months in the quiet. Hope you enjoyed our news segment. We wanted to talk a little bit about ourselves and our collections now. We're going to call it Mike's Scrapyard. This is the what we call the segment. Mike, do you want to update us on your scrapyard? What's been happening the last few months?
I mean, I just wanted to say that it's not fair that I'm not allowed to swear, because I feel that you've been derogatory. I think
you can say GFY.
I think it actually
just pretend that you're swearing.
Okay, no, I'm swearing on the inside. Okay.
Let's be honest though, Mark. Tell us about the scrap that you've bought recently.
So, I mean, I wouldn't call it scrap, but I wouldn't call it...
Wait. Sorry, Mark. Can I give you a bit more of an introduction? I get a phone call from Mark. Oh, Mark, you're never going to... I've bought a collection of cars. They found this barn. There's this amazing collection of cars.
I didn't say call it a collection. I called it a
Lamborghini Miuras going through my... a parcel of cars. Even worse. So I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like, the holy grail. He's found that missing Bugatti or something. But Mark, tell us what you bought.
Okay, so I mean, just to add some context.
Just give us the names. Just the names of the cars, Mark.
No, because remember, we've got new viewers here, so we can just say that, in general, my can hold its own. There's a little bit of something for everyone. We've got some Italians, we've got some mid-engine, we've got 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, V12s. We've got, we've even got
runners, non-runners.
Lots of
originals, non-originals.
I like to think that my collection is anchored by at least a bit of quality. I'm swearing again. I'm swearing again.
Look at him. He's getting worked up. I love it.
It's hard.
We know
him back when
Mark's getting worked up.
It's hard for our listeners to understand.
So if I could just tell the story of how it happened. Okay. So I've got this
parcel.
Who, some people have got an angel and some people have got a devil on their shoulders. So you've got
Warwick,
and then I've got my mate on the other side. So basically, I've got no one steering me in the right direction. So we've sort of acquired a couple of cars together. So we bought a 1986 BMW 745, which actually was a very rare car and has been sold to a collector in Munich, which is quite sad, but it was actually a reasonably good deal. We bought.
So are we sticking with the word collector?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking more along the lines of the greater fool theory.
Listen,
yes. Collector in Munich.
Okay, so anyway, we bought a 928 together, which I'm actually a Porsche 928, which I'm actually quite fond of. But a few weeks back, there was this old guy in right near where Mark lives, actually, and he has a collection of cars that he assembled over 40 odd years, and he's too old to do anything with them now, and he's in his late 80s, and he wanted to offload the whole collection. So 4 of us clubbed together and we bought the parcel of cars, and it's quite a colorful bag of Smarties that we've got.
Bag of Smarties, that's a good description.
But to be honest, actually, if it's been quite a lot of fun buying this stuff, and now we're systematically getting them going because they've sat for a while. So I can list the cars. I'll start.
Do that.
I'm going to try and work into a crescendo here. Yeah, we have a 1985 Daihatsu Charade 1.3 non-turbo.
This is amazing.
Non-turbo.
This is the car no one ever wanted. 3 cylinders, 3 unturbocharged cylinders.
If Thomas was still on this thing, he'd be excited about it.
Of course he would. That's why he's not on this thing.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a Citroen
Don't be
12
nasty, gentlemen.
Club, which I must admit is quite a cool looking thing. I don't know, it's air cooled. It has that air suspension goes up and down. We have a 1982 Alpha 6, which is a 2.5 liter V6 with carbs. Marky, what carbs are they?
The Delorto carbs, Delorto downdrafts, and that's the most valuable part of the car.
I was
You can
about to
burn the
say,
rest.
there is a chance we're going to be selling carbs.
Just the carbs, yeah.
We're going to give the car away for free with it.
Exactly. I think it's got a 2 or 3 speed auto.
Yeah, this is auto. And it's got a very velour interior. It's beige velour.
Time warp interior.
Time warp. Okay.
Does it smell like urine? Carry on.
No, and there weren't rats in any of these cars. Okay, so that's 3 of them. Then we have a 1962 Lancia Flavia, which is a flat 4. Out of all the Lancias, probably the ugliest one I've ever seen.
So wait, it's a Lancia with a Subaru engine.
Lancias had some proper dogs. Okay.
No, that wasn't really.
Okay, after that, it starts getting a little bit more interesting. So we have a 1974 bay window combi, which it was called a deluxe, and it's got a full-length sunroof that manually winds open. It's actually, this car it's amazing. It's brown. The interior on all of these cars, absolutely like perfect. So this car, and actually was quite common in period. It had a Ford V6 conversion. I know you're going to give me a hard time about it, but
it was almost okay. I hadn't heard about this one. It was almost okay until you said it had a Ford V6 conversion.
Yeah, it was actually quite a common conversion back then because it turned it into a proper cruising car. So that one's quite interesting. And being a deluxe, it's quite cool. On the sliding door, as you open it, a little step comes out. That's where Rolls-Royce got the idea, baby.
So hang on, Mike. Have you got a 3 liter V6, 2 liter Coke, and 1 liter Clippies?
That's pretty much.
That's how it works with that.
Okay, then we've got a 1967 Mercedes 250 SE, which is a really, really cool car. So it's a W108, and it's a floor shift. So mechanically, I think it's actually got quite the same running gear that would be found in a Pagoda of that era. Marky?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
And actually,
Cool car.
I drove a Pagoda last week. I'm a little bit obsessed with it. So that car is the first one in. But we actually, we sent it in today. The guy used it as a towing vehicle. And I mean, I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but he packed the springs with tennis balls to prevent it when he put too much weight at the back. I swear. I'll show you the pictures.
You got to do what you got to do.
The last car we've got it's quite a cool looking thing. So it's a 1957 Nash Ambassador. It was one of 2 right-hand drives that were built in the factory in East London. That factory, after those 2 cars were built, became the Merc factory. Started manufacturing on the contract Mercs. And then over time became the Merc factory that is today. So we've got these 7 cars, and then we managed to somehow buy a very, very early 928, one built in the first 3 months of production, which I must admit is actually awesome to drive. Unfortunately, it's a worthy candidate for a restoration, but I don't have the time and the patience for that. So yeah, so look, we bought this to flip it, to flip them. I'm trying to be like Richard Rawlings, and there we go.
Mike, we're going to have to cut you short there because as interesting as that is and as awful as your parcel was, we're going to have to move on to give someone else a chance. Now, I think for our listeners, it's important to know that Mike's background is actually of superb taste, owning various supercars from Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, and lately he's had some very bad lapses in judgment. Speaking of bad lapses, he might have. Speaking of which, what bad lapses of judgment have you had lately, Mark?
Oh, none. I've made good choices.
Tell us.
I've done nothing. The only thing that I've changed is I sold a 996 GT3 and bought an Alpha 4C. Best car in the world.
You just answered my question. Jacques, oh, Jacques, you don't have a collection.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Never mind. So back to Mark. What can you
Just changed his car recently. I mean, you got the M2?
Yes, I've got an M2 at the moment.
At the moment, I like the sound of that. Jacques planning something. We love living vicariously through Jacques.
I'm not planning anything specific, but I don't think I've ever told someone what car I drive without saying at the moment at the end of it. So I do try and change them quite often.
You see, Jacques, when you become part of this elite group, it comes with its burdens. And some of the burdens are we need to change cars often. We've got to keep it mixed. We've got to keep the audience interested. So if anyone's interested, there's an M2 for sale. Jacques going to be looking for something else.
Have you had a proper urge to start vaping, get a tattoo, and go and have a fight in four-ways?
No.
Do you carry just one golf club in the boot of your car?
But I mean, I am from Kempton, so it's just one bad decision away, and then I'm there.
Oh, okay.
Jacques,
listen, Nadav's also bought some stuff.
Have I? Jacques selected not to apply the Aquafresh to his car. I think he's trying to stand out. He wants his car to stand out, so it doesn't have any Aquafresh stripes on it. Even though it's an actual M2. Well, my first bad decision was waking up one cold morning in January and driving to work, where I then wrote off my GT3. So that was a bit shit. Excuse me. And then there was rest in pieces, my friend. And then I started getting into a little bit of trouble trying to find myself something else to drive. And long story short, because we are running out of time, I've ended up with a 13-year-old hot hatch, a Honda Civic Type R FN2, which Jacques very kindly helped me drive up from the coast, which is a nice story in itself. And I'm sort of getting into hot hatch life a little bit. Minus the brakes.
Cool laugh.
Yeah.
You've got to give us a full review on that car on here one day.
I will.
And Mark and I still need to drive it. Jacques, you've driven it.
Yeah.
I've never driven a Honda from that era.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to it.
I was impressed by it. That engine is something amazing.
Yeah,
it's true. For the money, the engine's worth it on its own. I can agree.
Hard, so I'm just hoping that it survives. Bulletproof.
Yes, well.
So was Mark talking? I can't hear him over the 56K modem dialing up from his house.
All right, guys. Well, that segment went very quickly. We've got one more segment this evening. Thanks for the garage update, and we'll see you in a bit. Welcome back to the GearBoks podcast, episode 1. Thank you all for joining us once again. Jacques, Mike, and Mark joining me, Nadav, on this Zoom podcast recording. Previous 2 segments were very enjoyable, gentlemen. Thank you. It's nice to be back in the saddle.
Please.
And what we thought we'd discuss is our influences. So, I mean, we've decided to do a podcast, and it's because we consume a lot of social media automotive content. There's a lot of people who do a lot of work whose content we respect, to we want to shout out to. We are your fans. We wouldn't be here without you, and you're getting us through pretty tough times. So I thought everyone can maybe put into the pot, and for our viewers, for our listeners, 2 or 3 examples of maybe someone who you could suggest that they should follow if they're interested. Jacques, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So when I was still commuting to work, I consumed quite a bit of the Smoking Tire podcast. So those of you who might know Matt Farrer. It's quite a long form podcast, but he's got access to a couple of really cool car owners and collectors, and he's also setting up a collecting sort of a car storage space called Westside Collector Car Storage. So I'm sure he'll have even more access to guys who own really special cars. So I really enjoyed that podcast. And then
his YouTube one take Smoking Tire stuff is very enjoyable.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also good.
There's a lot of access, a lot of very early access to cars. He often reviews cars long before anyone else in the industry does.
Yeah.
So I agree with
you. And he's very thorough. I like how thorough, and he's a proper journalist. He's not just a guy who likes cars. His structure to his review is very good. I like it. One that I enjoy.
Go on, Jacques. He wasn't finished.
Oh yeah, there's obviously Chris Harris's podcast, although they don't.
It's dead
really,
now.
Excuse me.
It's dead. He hasn't done anything for months.
Yeah, so they don't actually broadcast that often, but he also has obviously access to really influential people.
Yeah, he does.
Thanks, Mark.
I listen to Sparks Car Radio, Spark Ferristein's podcast. He's got a he's got a resident guest called Paul Zuckerman. And I found they also interview some really cool guys from the industry. They interviewed Andy Pullinger, is that how you say his name? The guy who designs all GT Porsches.
Oh, Poininger.
He was on their show recently.
Poininger, yeah.
So they get access to a lot of cool cars because of their association to Jerry Seinfeld. They're friends with him. And there's a kind of a spin-off that he actually used to write for Seinfeld, Spike. So yeah, it's pretty good. He gets a little bit irritating, but generally he's got good content and he's got good exposure. So it's worth listening to. Definitely worth listening to. That's the podcast side of things.
I must admit, I got the complete. Didn't really understand what you guys were asking. So when you said about Instagram and things, all of the fitness girls that I follow come to mind. But
what the hell does that mean? What are you talking about?
Can we keep it correlated, Mike? We know
that's the thing. Is I was confused. I was initially confused. But
setting the fitness girls aside for a moment.
Yeah, but actually, I'm now watching.
Followed by the promo girls.
Exactly. I mean, I watch a hell of a lot of sports. So actually, I don't really have that much time to watch correlated stuff. So.
All right. Well, thanks for weighing in, Mike. So that's my opinion was that.
Didn't let me think. Hold on. But I do think that Harry's Garage is amazing, and so is Ken. So, but I'll let Doc talk a little bit about Tyrrell and the essence of it, because I think.
We're on the same page with that. 100%.
Tyrrell is Doc's spiritual animal.
I swear.
He's
Yeah,
very
no, I
cool.
agree with you, Mike. With you, I'm on the same page as you. So I wanted to talk about a couple of YouTubers that I admire. I think the first is Harry Metcalf of Harry's Garage. He was the owner / editor of Evo magazine. That was a very well respected British supercar sports car magazine. And he went independent, and he's actually a consultant for Jaguar for special vehicle operations for Jaguar Land Rover, and so he's got a lot of industry and magazine experience. But the point is that he's made a success of his enthusiasm. He manages to bring across detail about a car, but with such enthusiasm that you can't help but be drawn in. I think he's quite a character actually, and he brings a lot of stuff across about cars very interestingly, and he puts it very, very well. A lot of experience. He's maybe slightly older, and so he's had decades in the industry, and he really knows how to bring it across. And so when he took his Lamborghini Espada to Ian Turrell to get an engine rebuild on that V12, he inspired Ian Turrell, who is a what would you say, sort of a 60s and
Master
70s master technician, Lamborghini, Ferrari specialist in the UK.
Yeah.
He's made his own channel influenced by Harry that's been a huge success. And to watch Ian Turrell is, I can't tell you how amazing it is to watch him working on like a Miura, and he telling you everything about this particular Miura and what makes it so special, and taking you through, the various details about a Lamborghini Miura, hands on with the engine out. I mean,
well, this
you
is
don't get to see that every day. You don't.
The thing is, the level of detail that they go into that other car journalists just wouldn't, is what we thrive on. We love that detail. We love the engineering detail.
I just drink it up. Whatever content they make, I will watch without question.
I think
so I highly recommend
Shadow
it.
of a doubt. Nothing beats Richard Rawlings for life, baby.
Sorry, Jacques.
No, I'm
As
saying,
he takes a swig of his beer.
Didn't Ian Turrell come out to South Africa to come and work on something at Franschhoek Motor Museum?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was here in December.
Aston, yeah.
Yeah, DB4 GT.
Yeah.
And there's more to it, because I think he found there was a Miura that was garaged in Cape Town.
The blue one.
The
blue car.
So we haven't heard that story yet, but.
Yeah. And then there's that Italian, what's his name, David Chironi.
Davide Chironi. Yes, Drive Experience. That's right.
Yeah. You can't understand anything the guy is saying, but you just want to go out and drive once you've watched on it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's incredible. His enthusiasm comes across, and he's also very detailed reviews in Italian, but with subtitles. Really cool cars. Agreed.
His enthusiasm.
So
now he's gone over to Drive Tribe now.
Really, yeah.
To Motor Trend. Motor Trend, and there's no access to his stuff, which I'm really upset about. If anyone knows, please hit us up, email us, or in the comments, and let us know.
Well, I can tell you from what I know, what you need to do is you need to go through a VPN, and then you'll get access.
Yeah. So that might be the answer. Just as a last word, any Instagram accounts we should be looking at, gents?
Well, I think we definitely, hopefully we get traction. We'd like to hear from you, the listeners and watchers. So if there's stuff that you'd like us to cover and got some ideas for us, we'd love to hear from you. So our Instagram page, it'll be at GearBoks, and that is GearBoks. I'm at MH Salomon. Guys, introduce yourselves.
You
can find me at Okay.
Damn.
I'm at NBR_911.
And I'm at DIEJHS. So
find us all on Instagram. Have a look at what our feeds have shown in the last few months. Tell us if you have any comments. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be signing off, and we hope to see you and hear from you, and we'll do another episode again very, very soon. It's been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you for making the effort. And let's make this a regular thing.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it regular. Try and make one a week where we can. It'll
Sounds
be
good to me.
We'll see you
And
next week.
stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands, wear your masks. All the best.